If you've ever watched someone smile while holding a knife, you know the vibe. That was my wife lately. Not always. She used to laugh at stupid memes I sent her at 2 a.m. and steal fries off my plate like it was a marital right. But somewhere along the line, the warmth drained out of our house like someone unplugged it. The air got colder, the conversations got shorter, the silences got longer, and she got sharp. Not "I'm stressed" sharp. Not "work is a mess" sharp. More like "I've rehearsed this argument in my head and you're about to play your part" sharp. For weeks, every interaction had the same flavor: accusation with a side of contempt. "Why do you always look so blank?" I swear talking to you is like talking to a wall. "Do you even have emotions, or do you just perform them?" I'd bite back the first 10 responses that came to mind, mostly because I wanted to keep the peace, partly because if I replied honestly, we'd be auditioning for a reality show called Couples Who Shouldn't Be Allowed Near Sharp Objects. The thing is, I wasn't absent. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't secretly addicted to gambling or building a second family in another state. I was just tired. Like most adult men who wake up, work, come home, and realize their rest is basically switching from one form of responsibility to another. I didn't vanish. I didn't stop caring. But she started acting like I'd committed a crime. Then one evening, out of nowhere, she dropped it on me like it was a gift. "We need couples therapy." She said it the way a judge announces a sentence. I paused mid-sip of coffee, which tasted like burnt disappointment, and stared at her. "Therapy?" I repeated, like with a professional human who charges per hour to watch us argue. Her eyes didn't soften, no hesitation, no vulnerability, just that calm, self-assured look. "Yes," she said, "a professional. Because clearly you don't listen to me." I leaned back in my chair. "I listen. I just don't always agree." She smiled. Not the kind you take a picture of, more like the kind you see right before your phone gets thrown into the ocean. "If you really cared," she said, voice sweet as poison, "you'd finally listen to a professional." There it was, that line. A perfect little moral trap. If I said no, I'd be the husband who refused help. If I said yes, I'd be walking into a room where she'd already set the furniture the way she wanted it. Still, part of me actually hoped. Because I'm not stupid, but I'm also not made of stone. When someone says last chance, you hear the word chance before you hear the word last. So I agreed. "Fine," I said. "Let's do it." Her face didn't light up. That should have been my first clue. If therapy was really for us, she would have shown some emotion, relief, fear, hope, something. Instead, she looked like someone who just got confirmation on a reservation. The next day, she texted me the details. Already booked, already scheduled, already decided. Of course, she'd chosen the therapist herself. A nice office in a clean building with soft lighting and a name that sounded like a luxury candle brand. Dr. Howard M. Lane. I stared at the address, then at my wife. "You found him pretty fast." "I did research," she said, like she was picking a restaurant. "He's experienced." "Experienced in what? Divorce warm-ups?" She ignored that. That was also new. Her ability to ignore any joke that didn't fit her mood. Like humor had become something she considered disrespectful. Not because it was cruel, but because it took control away from her. The week leading up to the appointment felt weird. She was organized. Not in the normal way, like, "I made a grocery list." More like, "I've prepared evidence." She kept referencing therapy in random moments, like she was planting flags. "Well, we'll talk about that in therapy. Dr. Lane will help you understand. I just want you to be honest for once." I wasn't sure what she meant by honest, because if I got any more honest, I'd need a lawyer and a helmet. The night before the session, she came home late with a new scent on her. Something expensive, floral but sharp. The kind of perfume that says, "I've moved on emotionally, but I'd like you to blame yourself for it." I raised an eyebrow. New perfume? She didn't even look up from her phone. It's nothing. Everything was nothing lately. Her phone buzzed. She smiled, quick and private. Then she looked at me like my presence annoyed her. I let it go, but the feeling in my gut didn't. The morning of the appointment, she dressed like she was going to court. Not dramatic, not flashy, just curated. Like she'd studied credible victim aesthetics on Pinterest. In the car, she didn't talk, just stared out the window while I drove. "You nervous?" I asked. She exhaled like I'd asked her if she wanted to chew rocks. "No," she said. "I'm ready." Ready. Not hopeful. Not scared. Ready. We parked outside the building. She got out first, phone already in her hand. I watched her thumbs move fast. Then she tilted the screen away slightly when she realized I was looking. That small motion, barely anything, hit harder than any argument. Because if you're not hiding anything, you don't hide. I didn't say a word. I just followed her. The lobby smelled like clean air and people pretending they're fine. We walked to the elevator. She was still typing. I kept my eyes on her reflection in the elevator mirror. Her face was calm, focused, like she was sending a message that mattered. The doors opened on the 4th floor. She stepped out without looking at me. I finally spoke, quiet. "Who are you texting?" Her eyes flicked up for half a second. "Just a friend." I nodded slowly. "Right. The mysterious friend you smile at." She didn't answer, didn't even get defensive. She just walked. And that's when I realized something else. She wasn't worried about what I'd think. She was sure she'd already won. We reached the door with the frosted glass. Dr. Howard M. Lane, Family and Relationship Therapy. She stopped right before it. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced down, smiled, and then, like she suddenly remembered I existed, she slipped the phone into her purse and turned to me. "You're going to take this seriously," she said, voice low. "No jokes, no deflecting, just listen." I looked at her, really looked. At the calm confidence, the rehearsed tone, the lack of fear, and I felt something in me go quiet. Not sadness, not anger, just focus. "Don't worry," I said. "I'll be very serious." She gave me a satisfied look, like she thought she'd just trained me. Then she opened the door and walked inside. I followed, and as the door shut behind us, I had one crystal clear thought. This isn't therapy. This is a stage. And I had a feeling I wasn't the one who wrote the script. Dr. Howard M. Lane sat behind an elegant wooden desk. He stood up with the polished smile of a man who charges by the hour and has never been late on a payment in his life. "Welcome," he said warmly, extending a hand. My wife took it first. Of course she did. She shook his hand like they were closing a deal. Then he looked at me. I shook his hand too. Firm, polite. His grip was soft, confident. The grip of someone who's never carried a couch upstairs. He gestured for us to sit. My wife chose the couch like she was claiming territory. I sat beside her, but not too close, because lately sitting next to her felt like sitting next to a stranger who'd memorized your weaknesses. Dr. Lane sat down, crossed one leg over the other, and tilted his head with concern already loaded and ready to fire. "So," he said gently, pen poised, "who would like to start?" My wife didn't hesitate, not even a half second. She inhaled, and I swear I saw it. The switch flip. Her posture softened. Her eyes glossed up. Her voice got shaky. The performance began. "I'll start," she said, looking at him like he was a lifeguard and she was drowning. Dr. Lane nodded slowly. "Of course, take your time." I glanced at my wife. No tremble in her hands, no real panic. But her voice? Oscar-worthy. She turned to me for exactly 1 second, just enough to remind me I was the villain today, then looked back at him. "I feel alone," she began, "even when he's right there." Dr. Lane's face tightened with sympathy. I stayed quiet. I wanted to see the full script before I spoke. My wife continued, He's emotionally empty, she said. It's like living with a blank wall. I blinked once. Blank wall. Interesting, because I distinctly remembered paying bills, fixing things, working, planning, showing up, listening, and generally behaving like a human adult. But sure, wall. And it's not just that, she added, voice trembling just enough. It's like he doesn't even see me. Dr. Lane nodded again, slow, grave, like he'd just heard a patient describe a terminal disease. And how long have you felt this way? He asked her. My wife sighed. A long time. Dr. Lane wrote something down. I caught a glimpse of his notepad. I couldn't read it clearly, but I'm pretty sure it said, husband-on problem. My wife kept going. I tried, she said, palms open, helpless. I really tried. I communicated. I begged him to be present, to be a man, to act like I mattered. Then she dropped the next line with surgical precision. He's not a man. She said it softly, like it hurt her to say it. But her eyes were steady. Dr. Lane didn't flinch. He didn't say, that's a harsh thing to say. He didn't say, let's unpack that. He just nodded like it was a valid clinical observation. So when you say, not a man, Dr. Lane asked, what does that look like in your daily life? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so absurd I had to bite the inside of my cheek to stay calm. My wife leaned forward. He avoids hard conversations, she said. He shuts down. He gets quiet. And then he acts like everything is fine. I raised my hand slightly, like I was in class. Can I? Dr. Lane lifted a finger without even looking at me. Let her finish, he said. Oh, so that's what we're doing. I lowered my hand, still smiling, because my mother raised me to be polite, but my soul was already sharpening knives. My wife continued, momentum building. And when I tell him I'm unhappy, he turns it into jokes, like it's not serious, like I'm overreacting. She glanced at me briefly, like, see? You're doing it right now. Then she looked back at Dr. Lane and let her voice crack. I feel unloved. There it was, the big word, the nuclear option. Dr. Lane leaned forward, voice low and compassionate. That must be incredibly painful. My wife nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue she had already prepared. Already prepared. She didn't just pull it from the box. She had one ready in her hand like she expected tears on schedule. At that point, I finally decided it was my turn. I leaned slightly forward. Okay, I said calmly. Can I speak now, or do I need to wait for the commercial break? My wife's eyes flashed, just for a second. Dr. Lane looked at me with patient disappointment, like I was a child ruining a solemn moment. This is a serious space, he said gently. It is, I replied. That's why I'd like to speak. He nodded, but it was a reluctant nod. Go ahead, he said, but try to focus on your feelings, not defensiveness. I almost admired the efficiency. He hadn't heard a single word from me yet, and I was already defensive. Nice. I looked at my wife. First, I said, voice calm, I'm not emotionally empty. I'm exhausted. There's a difference. My wife scoffed softly, perfectly timed, like a sound effect. I work, I continued. I handle responsibilities. I show up. I'm here. But lately, nothing I do is enough because you've already decided I'm the problem. Dr. Lane held up his hand again. Let's be careful with, you've decided, he said. That sounds like blame. I stared at him, then back at my wife, who sat with her arms folded now, tears conveniently drying up. Okay, I said. Let's use neutral language. She says I'm the problem. Dr. Lane nodded like that was slightly better. I continued. Something changed, I said, and I've been trying to figure out what. Because it wasn't gradual. It was like a switch. My wife's jaw tightened. Dr. Lane tilted his head. A switch? Yes, I said. 1 week we're normal. The next week I'm a blank wall and not a man. My wife exhaled sharply. "You're doing it again," she snapped. "You're minimizing." "I'm quoting you," I said. Dr. Lane jumped in quickly. "Let's not argue over wording," he said. "What's important is the emotional experience she's describing." I nodded slowly. "So her emotional experience is important," I said. "And mine is, what? An inconvenience?" Dr. Lane's face tightened. He leaned back, pen tapping the notepad. "I didn't say that," he said. "But I will say this. When one partner feels chronically unseen, they often look for validation elsewhere." My wife's eyes widened slightly. Not shocked, more like satisfied surprise, like she hadn't expected him to go there this fast. I looked at Dr. Lane. "Elsewhere," I repeated. He held my gaze. "It's a common dynamic," he said, voice measured. "It doesn't justify anything, but it explains the emotional pathway." Then he turned his head toward me slightly, like he was about to deliver a lesson, and asked the question that changed the air in the room. "Do you understand why she might look for affection elsewhere?" Silence. My wife stared at me with that calm little expression like, "Go on, say it, confess, beg, break." Dr. Lane waited, pen poised, and in that moment, I realized two things at the exact same time. This man wasn't here to help us. My wife hadn't brought me here for healing. She brought me here to get permission, to have a licensed professional nod along while she painted me as the reason she could do whatever she wanted. I smiled, slow, controlled, not because it was funny, because it was clear. "Yeah," I said quietly. My wife's lips twitched, like she thought that meant I was surrendering. Dr. Lane's shoulders eased, like he'd cracked the case. But my smile wasn't surrender. It was the moment I stopped believing in the room. I leaned forward slightly. "I understand," I said. "I just didn't realize we were already writing her excuse out loud." My wife's eyes narrowed. Dr. Lane blinked, like the script had skipped a line. "Let's pause," he said carefully. "That sounds like resentment." "No," I said. "That sounds like reality." And the funny part? I wasn't even angry yet. Not fully. I was just awake. Because once you realize you're on a stage, you stop trying to impress the audience. You start looking for the exit. She walked out of the office like she'd just won a court case. Not relieved, not shaken, not emotional, satisfied. Dr. Lane smiled at her the way customer service smiles when you leave a 5-star review. "Good progress today," he said. Progress. Right. I nodded politely because my parents raised me with manners and I wasn't about to get arrested in a therapy lobby. My wife didn't speak in the elevator. She just stared at her reflection like she was practicing the face she'd wear at my funeral. In the car, she finally broke the silence. "Well," she said, folding her hands neatly in her lap. She turned to me, voice calm, almost cheerful. "See?" "See what?" I asked. She sighed, like I was slow. "Even the therapist agrees," she said. "You're the reason I'm unhappy." She said it with the same casual confidence you'd use to tell someone the weather was bad. I kept my eyes on the road. "Interesting," I said. She blinked. "That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say?" I replied. "Should I apologize for not being a candlelit fantasy man with a six-pack and unlimited emotional monologues?" Her jaw tightened. "This is exactly what I mean," she snapped. "Jokes, deflection." "It's not deflection," I said. "It's survival. If I don't laugh, I'm going to start asking very uncomfortable questions." She went quiet again. The rest of the drive home felt like sitting next to someone who'd already left the relationship but forgot their coat. At home, the air was heavier. She moved through the house with that cold efficiency people have when they're already planning a different life. She didn't slam doors, didn't scream, didn't dramatize. She just withdrew. And that was worse. Because anger is loud. Indifference is surgical. That night she sat on the couch scrolling her phone while I cooked dinner. Yes, cooked. Because apparently I was emotionally empty and the household chef. A fascinating combination. I placed a plate in front of her. She glanced at it like I'd handed her a failed apology. "Thanks," she said flat. I sat down across from her. "So," I began casually, "do you feel less alone now that a licensed stranger nodded at you for an hour?" Her eyes flicked up. "You're mocking it again." "No," I said. "I'm trying to understand what your goal is." "My goal?" she repeated, like the concept was offensive. "Yes," I said, "because therapy is supposed to be about fixing things, but you're acting like it's about proving something." Her lips pressed together. "I want you to finally admit you're the problem," she said. There was no hesitation, no softness, just pure, clean accusation. I stared at her. Then I nodded slowly. "Got it," I said. "So therapy isn't a bridge, it's a confession booth." She stood abruptly, taking her plate. "I can't do this right now," she muttered. And she walked away. That became the routine. Every conversation ended the same way. I tried. She corrected. I questioned. She withdrew. And somehow, the more I tried to be gentle, the more she treated me like I was failing a test she refused to explain. So I did what any rational man does when his marriage turns into a psychological escape room. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was too quiet. Maybe I was too tired. Maybe I wasn't present enough. Maybe I should have been more romantic, more expressive, more whatever invisible standard she was measuring me against. So I tried. I bought her flowers. She said, "Why now?" I cleaned the kitchen without being asked. She said, "You want praise?" I suggested a weekend trip. She said, "That won't fix what you are." What I am. Not what I did. What I am. That's when it started to feel less like criticism and more like rewriting, like she wasn't reacting to me. She was building a version of me she could justify leaving. And the weirdest part? She started changing too. Little things at first. She guarded her phone like it contained nuclear codes. If I walked into a room, the screen angled away. If it buzzed, she'd pick it up instantly. She began having girls' nights that weren't girls' nights. "I'm meeting Claire," she'd say. Or, "Just drinks with the girls." Or the classic, "Don't start." I hadn't even started. One evening, I was folding laundry, living the emotionally empty dream, when she stepped out of the bathroom, dressed nicely. Not overdressed, just intentional. I raised an eyebrow. "Big night with Claire?" She didn't even look at me. "Yeah." "She's lucky," I said. "You dress better for her than you do for me." That got a reaction. She turned sharply. "God, you're exhausting," she snapped. "This is why I feel trapped." I smiled faintly. "Right," I said. "The towel prison." She stormed out. The door clicked shut, and I stood there, holding a shirt, feeling something settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. Suspicion. Because people don't rewrite history unless they're trying to justify the future. The next therapy session was scheduled for the following week. My wife reminded me twice. Like a warden reminding an inmate of court. The night before it, she fell asleep quickly. Like someone whose conscience was already outsourced. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet, and wondering how a marriage goes from warm to hostile without a single clear event. Until the answer arrived. The next afternoon, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went upstairs. It buzzed. Once. Twice. I didn't move. I'm not that guy. I don't snoop. But the screen lit up. And when the name didn't appear, just a heart emoji saved as a contact, my stomach did something cold. Then the message preview popped up. Just a few words. Enough. Can't wait until after your session again. I stared at it. Session again. As in this wasn't new. As in therapy wasn't progress. It was scheduling. It was cover. My wife came back downstairs, humming softly. She froze when she saw me standing there, not holding the phone, not accusing, just looking at the screen like it was a crime scene. Her humming died. "What are you doing?" she asked sharply. I lifted my eyes to her. calm. "Oh," I said softly. "Nothing." Then I smiled. The kind of smile a man wears when he finally understands he's not crazy. He's just been lied to. And for the first time in weeks, the doubt disappeared. Replaced by something much colder. Clarity. After that message, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because confrontation is emotional, and emotion was exactly what she wanted from me. A breakdown, a scene, a confession, something she could carry into Dr. Lane's office like a trophy. So instead, I did the most dangerous thing a man can do in a collapsing marriage. I got quiet. Not defeated quiet. Strategic quiet. My wife came downstairs that day acting like she hadn't just left her digital affair blinking on the kitchen counter. She poured herself water, looked at me, raised an eyebrow. "Well?" she asked. I took a slow sip of coffee. "What?" I replied. Her eyes narrowed. "You're being weird." "No, sweetheart, I'm being awake." But I just shrugged. "Long day." She stared at me for another second, clearly trying to provoke something. When I didn't bite, she gave a small, irritated huff and walked away. That night she was unusually polite. Not warm, not loving, just careful, like someone handling glass. "Are you okay?" she asked, almost too casually. I nodded. "Fine." She studied me, then smiled faintly. The wrong kind of smile. The kind that says, "Good, stay numb, makes this easier." That's when I understood the full shape of it. This wasn't random. This wasn't, "we grew apart." This wasn't therapy as a last chance. Therapy was a stage, and she was using it to build a story. A very specific story. One where she was the lonely wife, and I was the emotionally abusive husband. The cold man. The invisible wall. The reason she had no choice. Because in her version, cheating wasn't betrayal. It was self-care. And therapy? Therapy was her permission slip. The second session arrived quickly. My wife dressed nice again. Curated again. Victim chic again. In the car, she spoke like a woman heading to a press conference. "I hope you actually reflected," she said. I looked at her. "Oh, I reflected," I replied. She nodded, satisfied. Good. If she only knew what kind of reflection I meant. Dr. Lane greeted us with that same calm smile. The office smelled the same. We sat down. My wife immediately folded into her role. Dr. Lane leaned forward. "So," he began warmly, "how have things been since last time?" My wife sighed, dramatic but controlled. "It's been hard," she said. Dr. Lane nodded like he expected that. "And why is that?" he asked gently. She glanced at me with practiced sadness. "Because he doesn't change," she said. "He just withdraws." "Oh, so now silence was also a crime." Dr. Lane scribbled something. "Withdrawal can be a form of emotional punishment," he said. I blinked once. Punishment. Right. So if I talk, I'm defensive. If I stay quiet, I'm abusive. Amazing system, my wife continued. "I feel like I'm begging for basic affection," she said softly. Dr. Lane tilted his head. "And what does that do to you?" he asked. "It makes me feel invisible," she whispered. Dr. Lane turned to me. "What do you feel hearing that?" I smiled slightly. What did I feel? Oh, just the slow death of my respect for this entire performance. But I kept my voice calm. "I feel like we're skipping a chapter," I said. Dr. Lane paused. "What chapter?" he asked. I looked at my wife. "The part where she explains who she's texting," I said casually. The air changed. My wife's eyes flashed. Dr. Lane blinked. "I'm sorry," he said carefully. My wife jumped in fast. "He's paranoid," she said. "This is what he does. Instead of listening, he accuses." Dr. Lane nodded slowly. "Suspicion often comes from insecurity," he said. Insecurity. Of course, everything always came back to me being broken. My wife sighed again. "I can't even breathe without him making it about something else," she said. I leaned back, relaxed. "You seem to breathe just fine," I said. Dr. Lane frowned. "This sarcasm," he said gently, "is a defense mechanism." "No," I replied. "It's a personality trait. But go on." My wife's lips pressed together, irritated. She wasn't used to me staying composed. She wanted me messy. She wanted emotional chaos, because emotional chaos could be labeled and weaponized. The session ended the same way. Her, wounded. Me, problem. Dr. Lane, referee with a bias. As we walked out, my wife looked calmer again, like she'd gotten what she needed. Not connection. Confirmation. In the parking lot, she said quietly, "See how exhausting this is? Even therapy is hard because of you." I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "Must be tough having professionals validate your script." Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said calmly, "I hope you're enjoying the story you're building." She scoffed. "You're unbelievable." Then she turned away quickly, unlocking her phone the moment she thought I wasn't watching. And that's when I stopped feeling like a husband and started thinking like an investigator. Over the next 2 weeks, I did something I never thought I'd do. I watched. I noticed patterns. Her phone buzzed most when she thought I couldn't see it. Her perfume changed depending on where she was going. And money started moving strangely. Small cash withdrawals, new charges, a hotel bar tab that definitely wasn't from Claire. I didn't confront. I collected screenshots when she left her laptop open, receipts when she forgot them in the car, little pieces of truth. I also talked to people, not dramatically, not like a man begging for sympathy, just casually. "Hey, have you seen Claire lately?" And the responses started landing like bricks. "Claire? Haven't talked to her in weeks." Or, "She wasn't with you guys last Friday. She was home." Interesting. Then one night, I sat alone in the living room, scrolling through my own phone. I wasn't searching for heartbreak. I was searching for context. And that's when I found the final detail, the one that turned this from betrayal into conspiracy. Dr. Howard M. Lane. I typed his name again, deeper this time, not just his website, not just the smiling headshot. I clicked through reviews, connections, community boards, and then I saw it. A comment under a local fundraiser event photo, a familiar name, my wife's best friend's sister. And right beneath it, "Dr. Lane is amazing. We've known him forever." Known him forever. I stared at the screen, then leaned back slowly, because now it wasn't just therapy with a biased therapist. It was therapy with her therapist, her circle, her safety net, her accomplice. The room wasn't neutral. It never was. It was chosen, curated, controlled, just like everything else. "Oh," I murmured to myself, "so that's what this is." And for the first time, I wasn't hurt. I was impressed, not by her betrayal, but by the effort she put into making sure I'd look like the villain when it ended. She wasn't trying to save the marriage. She was trying to win the divorce before it even started. And the best part? She still thought I was asleep. By the time the last session came around, I wasn't confused anymore. I didn't show her my hand. I didn't argue. I didn't explode. I let her keep believing I was the same guy she could frame with a few tears and a therapist's nod. That morning, she dressed like she was going to close the deal. Calm, makeup perfect, perfume warm and expensive. The kind of scent that says, "I'm the victim, but also, I'm thriving." In the car, she hit me with her final pre-speech. "Just don't embarrass yourself," she said. I glanced at her. "I won't." And I meant it. Dr. Lane greeted us like a man ready to finish a job. We sat. He opened with a tone that already assumed I was guilty. "So," he said, pen in hand, "have you reflected on your failures?" My wife's mouth twitched like she enjoyed that word. Failures. Like I'd missed quarterly targets in Husband Inc. I nodded once. "Sure." Dr. Lane looked pleased, like he'd just heard progress. My wife jumped in fast. "No warm-up this time. No slow tears. She went straight for the throat. "He hasn't changed," she said. "He's still him." Then she leaned forward and delivered it, crisp and practiced. "He was never a husband. He was a roommate I had to raise." Silence followed. Dr. Lane watched me closely, waiting for the reaction, waiting for shame, waiting for me to defend myself like a man begging to be allowed back into his own life. My wife sat back, arms crossed, eyes steady, like she'd finally said the line she'd been saving. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just nodded slowly, like I was listening to someone read a script I'd already memorized. Dr. Lane cleared his throat. "How does that land for you?" he asked me. I exhaled once, calm. "It lands exactly where she wanted it to," I said. "Right in front of you." My wife narrowed her eyes. "Oh my God." I lifted a hand, polite. "Let me finish," I said. Dr. Lane blinked, because that was his line. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. Nothing dramatic, just paper and printouts, like the boring truth it was. My wife's face shifted slightly, not fear yet, but irritation. "What is that?" she asked. "Reality," I said. Dr. Lane's posture changed. He sat a little straighter. I opened the folder and slid the first page across the coffee table toward him. A screenshot, the heart emoji contact, the message preview. "Can't wait until after your session again." My wife's eyes went wide. Dr. Lane stared at it, then looked up at me. I kept my voice even. "You asked me if I understand why she might look for affection elsewhere," I said, glancing at him. "I do, because she already was." My wife snapped into motion. "That's," she started. Then a receipt, hotel bar tab. Then a photo from a story she didn't know got saved. Her reflection in a mirror, a man's arm around her, the kind of casual intimacy that isn't just friends. Her throat moved like she swallowed wrong. Dr. Lane's pen stopped tapping. I leaned forward slightly. "You weren't healing," I said calmly, looking at my wife now. "You were rehearsing." Her face went pale in a slow, ugly way, like the mask couldn't hold. She tried to grab control back immediately. "You went through my phone?" she hissed. I smiled once, small. "No," I said. "You're not that careful. You're just that confident." She turned to Dr. Lane, voice rising, trying to snap back into victim mode. "He's stalking me," she said. This is abuse." Dr. Lane hesitated. You could see him trying to decide which version of reality was safer for him. I tapped the folder. "I also looked you up," I said, calm as a man ordering coffee. "Small town, funny internet. Your name shows up in her friend circle, fundraisers, comments. Known him forever." Dr. Lane's face tightened. My wife froze. And for the first time in all these sessions, nobody interrupted me. And I know exactly when it started. My wife's lips parted, but no sound came out. Dr. Lane stared at the papers like they might save him. I closed the folder and sat back. My wife tried the classic move. Tears. Not real tears. The emergency ones. The ones you deploy when the narrative collapses. "This isn't what it looks like," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "It's exactly what it looks like." She looked at Dr. Lane like he was supposed to fix it. He looked like a man who suddenly wished he'd become a dentist instead. "I can explain," she said quickly. "You don't understand what I've been through." "I understand perfectly," I replied, calm, almost bored. "Therapy wasn't for us. It was for your conscience." That line hit her harder than anger would have. Because anger gives her a villain. Calm gives her nothing. She stood up, voice shaking. "So what? You're just leaving? After everything?" I gave her a tired half-smile. "You didn't bring me here to fix anything," I said. "You brought me here to make sure you looked clean when you did it." Her eyes flashed, rage fighting panic. "And what are you going to do?" she snapped. "Tell everyone?" I shrugged. "I don't have to. Truth has a funny way of walking out on its own." Then I turned toward Dr. Lane. "Consider this my last session," I said. He didn't answer, because there was nothing professional left to say. She followed me out to the car, still trying, still switching masks. Angry wife, broken wife, scared wife. Pick one. Anyone. You can't just divorce me, she said, voice sharp. I can, I replied, unlocking the car. And I already did the paperwork. That stopped her. Her face went still. What? She breathed. I looked at her once, calm, final. I filed, I said. And before you ask, finances are protected, documents are secured, and yes, your little victim story won't land the way you think. For a second, she looked like she might slap me. Then she looked like she might collapse. Then she looked like a woman realizing the stage lights just shut off. I got into the car, closed the door, and for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like freedom. I sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, breathing like I'd been underwater and finally surfaced. In the rearview mirror, she stood by the building entrance, alone, frozen, still trying to figure out which expression would work now. None of them did, because there was no audience left. I started the engine and drove away, and one thought stayed with me, clean and sharp. She thought that room would break me. It just showed me who she really was. People always ask what happened next, like life cuts to black after the dramatic exit and the credits roll. It doesn't. Life keeps going. It just gets quieter. The divorce was fast, mostly because my wife suddenly discovered she didn't enjoy courtrooms as much as therapy rooms. Turns out it's harder to cry on command when the other side has timestamps. As for Dr. Howard M. Lane, he lost his license. I filed a formal complaint, submitted the evidence, the connection to her friend circle, the blatant bias, the way he practically suggested cheating like it was a wellness activity. The board didn't love that. A few months later, his practice quietly disappeared. No more professional stage for someone else's betrayal. And my ex-wife? The funniest part is, she never had some deep romantic love story. The guy she was texting wasn't her soulmate. He was convenient. A friend of a friend. Someone who liked the attention. Someone she could use to feel desired while she rehearsed being a victim. And the therapist? He wasn't her lover. He was worse. He was her accomplice. It didn't. After the divorce, she tried to spin it. Tried to hint that I was emotionally unavailable. But people aren't stupid when the truth is clean. And me? I'm doing better than I expected. I laugh again, freely, without someone calling it a defense mechanism. And sometimes I think back to that therapy room, that stage she built so carefully. She thought it would break me. Instead, it gave me the one thing I needed, the truth. And once you have that, walking away is the easiest part. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.